Whoa, sorry, just fixing the camera there. Hello, everybody, and welcome to tonight's Get in Tune. I'm Michael Gracia, and I got a great show planned for you tonight. But before I bring on my guest, let me just give you a couple of little updates. I'm having actually a pretty interesting 2024 already, but don't forget, where is it? Right there at the Wiz Comic, Instagram and Facebook. Strip comes out every Wednesday, and you can get the book on Amazon, the complete 2023 collection, The Whimsical Wiz. And if you are going to be this weekend at Undiscovered Realm Con in White Plains, New York, you can get these from me in person. And I have some prints. I got a lot of cool stuff going on with the Wiz there. So let me bring on our guest tonight. He's a good friend of mine. He is an amazing artist. I actually have 3 pieces of his art hanging up around my house, 2 in my studio, 1 in my living room. He is a terrific fantasy artist. He does great stuff with horror, fairy tales, and just whatever. He's somebody's artwork that you want to own. So let's bring him on. J.M. DeSantis.
Hello.
Hey, man. Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing all right.
I
always find it funny, these, we always say hello when we get on the show. I don't know. It's just popped into my head. It's like, yeah, but we were just talking for like 10 minutes before the show.
It's all part of the show. It's an act, right?
Yeah, no, of course.
Let me say hi to Dylan and Tom in Tom Ramirez in the audience there. Dylan, hi, and Kimberly Gonzalez. Hi, thank you all.
Hello, everyone. Yeah.
We are.
And Ed Zed. Oh my God.
Who?
It's Ed. It's Ed. The end of Zed.
End of Zed.
So I met him. George Medina just had his signing for Russ. What is it? 5377. Do I have that right?
I believe so.
Yeah, and Ed is one of the guys that's following him on Instagram, and I got to meet him. So End of Zed is for Ed.
Oh, that's cool.
Ed is the creator. I forgot Ed's last name. I'm sorry, Ed. And then I saw James is there too.
Yeah, James. Hey, James, how you doing?
This is the biggest audience I've had in a while.
Yeah, we got a lot. We got a lot of people, and but just speaking of James right now, let's talk about this right now, because you, me, and Fugitive Poems with James Lyons is part of, along with Christian DiMatteo, will be at Undiscovered Realm Con this Saturday and Sunday, which is going to be at the County Center in White Plains, and it's going to be a very big show.
Yeah, I don't know what to expect. I forgot. So I don't know much about Undiscovered Realm. I think they used to do a show, because it's a comic shop, but they used to do a show pre-COVID, and then what? This is the first or second year?
I think this is the first year since they've been back since COVID. They did a few shows before COVID. They are a comic shop, but I think they're more of a gaming shop these days than a comic shop.
Which seems to be the trend.
Yeah, and they're not far. They're literally like in walking distance to the county center from their comic shop, I believe.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And for those who aren't familiar with White Plains, if you're in the New York City area, White Plains is about a 30-minute train ride from New York City, especially if you take a local, and not a local, an express, and the county center, I guess, depending how you walk, is about 5 to 10 minutes to the county center. So yeah, it's a nice location. They're using all 3 floors to it. In the basement will be the celebrities. The main floor will be where all of us will be, the artists, the vendors, and then upstairs will be the panels. So it's going to be a great show. I'm actually part of the kids section in Credit Kids, which is one of the groups I helped start with Mike Lopez, and when I'm available, I do the shows. So I'll be doing some kid workshops throughout the weekend. cartoonatures, which are like caricatures, not because I can't caricature, but I could turn you into a cartoon character. And so that's
which is even better than a caricature, if you ask me. But
I like to think so.
yeah, just a
And
real.
yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I see. Joe just dropped in.
Oh, hey Joe, how you doing? I got to go through all the all that thing.
And Kimberly, the cat's name is Cirilla. She's gonna be 6 this year.
Oh wow.
I think so. I got her in 2018. She was
Okay.
not a year old then.
That's nice. Yeah, no, my cat. I got Sesame one 2011, and he was a few months old when I got him.
Yeah,
So,
same. She was maybe 6 weeks. And
oh wow.
yeah, she was young.
I had my first cat I had with my wife. She, Jesse, who's passed away now. He passed away in 2016. He was literally, if he was 5 weeks old, that was old for him. He was I could fit him in my hand how tiny he was. And, we didn't know he was deaf. We didn't realize until we got him later. When we got him, he wouldn't freak out when the vacuum went on. Nothing bothered him. And then we found out he was deaf and very, very loud.
Yeah.
So let's see some comments. So Enda Zed says, nice, was just going to ask you if you guys will be at the con this weekend. Excellent. Joe Riley went to Kimberly drawing. What is this? You're drawing what? Beluga tones? I'm not familiar with that. And Tom Ramirez, can you make me a Joker? I don't know who he's talking to, but I'll be happy to draw you a Joker again.
I think he wants you to make him as the Joker.
As the Joker, I can do that. Yeah. Oh, for the cartoonature, yeah, I could totally do that.
Right.
Totally do that. But yeah, so yeah, that show. If you guys are local, I don't know how much tickets are, but it's going to be a really great show.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it because I've been hearing good things since Christian sent me the link for it some months ago, but it was like booked, so yeah. I wasn't able to get in. But then they had a few openings, and I just jumped on it right away because I wasn't able to get into Hershey.
Yeah.
Well, the only reason, it's nothing against Undiscovered Realm. There's quite a bit of conventions going on this weekend, but all the Kid in the Comics people are going to be up in Hershey, so I kind of wanted to join them for that show. But I'm perfectly happy to go to White Plains. It's much closer. It's driving distance for me.
Exactly.
And I haven't been to White Plains since Ray was throwing shows, helping. Nancy throw some shows over there.
Oh yeah, the ones at the Galleria that's now closed, and they're doing it at the other location where I can't remember what it's called. Is it City Center where Target is over there, the movie theater?
I haven't done it since back then.
Yeah. Tom will be at the show, so that's great. I look forward to seeing you. But speaking of a Kid in the Comic, I guess we'll do the announcement now. I was going to wait till a little later. But what they consider, I guess, season 2. I don't know exactly when the issue is coming out, but The Wiz will now be part of A Kid in a Comic, the newspaper, which you are currently a part of. Can you explain what you do for A Kid in the Comic?
No, I even have my little makeshift preview over here, right? So, I started out with The Beast, which is, I'm going the wrong way with this one. Yeah. Oh, and it's not great because of the glare, right? So anyway, The Beast, written by me. The story is by Len Danovich and I, written by me, and then Len's doing the artwork. That's where I came in on issue 1. And I haven't announced it on any of my socials, but I have mentioned it on my live streams. The Beast is also getting picked up into season 2. So we're going to continue the story of Eugene the Beast Kelly and his crime noir kind of supernatural story going on. Len gave me a whole bunch of ideas, and I've just been a little slow on the script. What else is new? I had a diverticulitis flare up last week, so that kind of slowed me down too. But I've been juggling too many shows. Hey, Cirilla. As soon as I get animated, so does she. And then my other comic, Chadhiyana, right? And that's just the first half of the page. They had one opening that turned into two openings in the middle section of the suspense and horror area.
Yeah.
So John was happy with how I was working with Len on the Beast, asked me if I had anything else. I pitched him Chadhiyana, and he said yes, and we went with it. So she got picked up for 3 issues of season 1, full page, and then that story is going to continue with a second part and a recap into the next season. So yeah, so both I'll have 2 comics running simultaneously in A Kid in a Comic.
That's awesome.
In season 2. And you know what? I don't want to say too much, but I feel like it's a good time to be in for you, Michael, because I was at Garden State Comic Fest this past weekend, and it seems like more industry professionals are aware of A Kid in a Comic now.
Really?
Yeah, I was, I guess maybe through word of mouth of other people that are in it, you know, because I mean, you know, they got people like Scott Hanna and Darren Auk, and then, you know, you have Keith Williams just joined the team, and I think Mark McKenna's finally coming in.
Yeah.
I know he wasn't able to do it last time. But yeah,
it's Combat Jack story, right? I think I saw.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like the lineup's growing, and you know, there's already been the 7th issue came out because he, you know, John, the publisher, wants to do about 7 issues every season. So yeah, you know, it's got a little bit of a track record now, and yeah, it seems. I was talking to one artist, and I don't like name dropping, but I was surprised because out of the blue, he was like, "You in A Kid in a Comic?" And I was like, "Yeah, I got actually 2 stories in it." And you know, we're talking about somebody that's working at Marvel right now currently. And I was like, "How the hell did he know about A Kid in a Comic?" It seems a little small by comparison, but yeah.
Well, you know, it's something I've noticed over the last couple of years. I'm sorry, a little hair, one of my mustache hairs fell into my mouth.
It's okay. I'm gonna have cat hair in my mouth. Yeah.
No, but I've noticed looking at things like on Instagram and other social media sites. I feel a lot more people are moving back to the strip format. I mean, you know, they love comic books and stuff. I love comics. I mean, my room is filled with them here. But I don't know. I think artists in general just want to create strips, you know, and I saw that with a lot of you know, especially Instagram people. That swiping method on Instagram just allows a great you know, reading method for comic strips. You could do up to 10 panels, and you know, so having A Kid in the Comic, which is a newspaper full of strips, I think it's the right time for it. There were other strips, papers in the past that tried it and succeeded for a little bit of time, and then it went away. But I mean, it you know, like I remember there was one I think it was Laugh-O-Gram Comics, like based off of Disney's Laugh-O-Gram title, and it was a newspaper, and I thought it was great. They got a lot of licensed strips from other companies, and like, you know, went to King Features and just got older copies of strips. So they had popular strips in there mixed in with indie people. It was a very very good product. But I don't think it was the right time for it. I think something like, I think the pandemic changed how we read comics.
Yeah. Well, I think you know, I could see how it. I when I was doing Gentleman Cthulhu, which was a comic strip, and so I can say also that's another that's another thing quickly to interject with it too.
Yeah.
Like strips are easier to do
Yeah.
than full comics because I've done both. Writing them and drawing them it's just not that they're. I don't want to say easier. That's incorrect, but the time time investment a lot shorter. You know, to get like a finished piece to share out.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I had launched Gentleman Cthulhu when Instagram was more at its height, because I started 2015 with that strip,
Mm.
and I only did it for 2 good years and one uneven, stretched out third year, and I would like to bring it back. Yeah, I probably would have used the Instagram format because I was doing 3 panels and it would have been 3 swipes, like really easy to do. But you know, at the time I was just posting to Facebook and Twitter and trying to get people to go to the site on the link, you know, like
Yeah.
just moving them over. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great thing. I you know, I've always talked on this show about how much I love strips and how I always consider myself a strip artist more than a book artist. You
Mhm.
know, so I have, you know, I literally have a pile of papers here of just ideas, and there are things that I'm looking at is like, you know, they were made for books or game ideas or whatever. I'm like, can I turn these into strips and just, you know, start doing a bunch of strips in the, you know, in
I
the
mean,
future?
yeah, the strip. I mean, the strip format can look at it this way. I mean, it's a challenge. Both I mean, when I wrote The Beast, right, this is my
Hmm.
first like detective noir real piece in general, right? So it was a challenge to try to write something different, but then also writing in a format where I wasn't, because Gentleman Cthulhu was like 3 panel joke strips. It was
Yeah.
comedy, you know. This one's a little bit more serious. So telling a story in that format, and then even when I brought Chadhiyana into A Kid in a Comic, I've been writing Chadhiyana stories for, it seems embarrassing to say because there's so little content out, but like for 12 years, and then fitting a story that, you know, I still would, that would fit with the narrative that I've already been telling, but also being satisfying to somebody reading it in a strict format. That was a challenge too. But you know, it can be done. And even if you look at A Kid in the Comic, like there's all different types of strips.
Yeah.
As Ed mentioned before, like it's just comments he mentioned. But yeah, like it's you don't, regardless of the genre you want to work in, like if a strip seems like more of a doable format to tell your story in, like doable in the sense that like that's the commitment you can make. Yeah, it's like it's viable, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
I
it's
appreciate that, Christian. That's very
yeah.
kind of you.
No, I agree. I mean, I just went to look up like an image of Gentleman Cthulhu, so that's what I was typing while you were talking. I just want
Oh yeah, I
a
have.
reminder of what he looked like. Um,
Oh, yeah, I actually have. It might be next to you over here. I have
but
nope. I was going to say I have a print of him, and I thought I had one. Oh yes, I do. Hang on. I'm trying to get it out of a. Yeah, that's the character
yeah,
there.
that's gorgeous. I love your art, man. I got to tell you, the other day, my wife and I were going through. Well, my wife was going through our print book. You know, stuff we collected at shows, and I had you know, a couple of pieces from you. So as you know, in my living room, when you walk in to my house, there's uh, one of your Hobbit drawings. I forget if it's Bilbo or Frodo, but I have a Hobbit piece of yours, and then
I
I have
made it. I made it as Bilbo, but you can
yeah.
make it Frodo.
I don't remember who it was, but And then I have the video game character up here. It's a little dark to see, right?
Right.
Yeah.
The Bloodborne Hunter.
Yeah, I believe that's what it is. And I'm just going to show you this. She pulled this out. I forgot I had it. I don't know if you can see it. My studio's a little messy, but it's the
yeah, the Mummy Love piece.
Yeah, exactly. I just put that up the other day.
Wait.
Looking at your art.
I just
Let's see what we got. I have. What do you say here? I have and love JM's Vampire Hunter D prize. Yeah.
So actually, I redid that piece very
Oh
recently.
wow!
Yeah.
Nice.
Because it was such a popular punchline in the comic, I decided to blow up that panel and redraw it.
Yeah.
Sorry, something dropped. But yeah, I'm putting that up as a. I'm gonna put it on a greeting card as well. I have a couple of projects that I paused because I really need to focus on Chadhiyana.
Yeah.
I
get that.
Yeah.
Go ahead. No, but go ahead. Say it.
Yeah, the whatchamacallit, the greeting cards is one of those. But anyway, yeah, the Vampire Hunter D piece. I'm glad Christian likes it.
I don't know if I ever saw that piece.
I don't have it next to me that I can show it to you. So
it's okay. Bring it Saturday.
Yeah. Well, it'd be there because I have copies to sell. Yeah. It's one of the few digital coloring pieces I did.
Yeah.
But yeah, not a lot of people know the character anymore. It's a shame. Yeah, I don't know.
We're gonna look at your sites in a little bit, but one of the things I really wanted to chat with you about is conventions. I know we talked about that. We're going to be at this show this weekend. You mentioned that you were at Garden State. I wanted to go this past weekend. I had a few friends doing the show besides you, and what's it called? I had a friend going, just walking the show. I was just going to hang out, but I couldn't end up going, and so I was a little disappointed this weekend. But hey, I'll tell you, I ended up drawing all weekend, so I'm not too upset. But would have been nice to go walk the show. But you've been doing a lot of conventions lately. I used to do. I couldn't even tell you. There were times I was away 30 plus weekends a year doing, kids section stuff, artist alley, whatever. But I haven't really done many shows since the pandemic. Some is due to what in the beginning was due to fear with my health issues. And right now I'm just spending time building products. So I'm not really doing shows, but it seems like every weekend you're away at a show.
Yeah, it's this year you could pretty much say that's true. So last year, okay. Well, let me just go through what I always do. I used to do only about like 10 to 12 shows a year. And last year it sort of was a little bit of just happenstance that it went that way, because I had, I don't know, about 16 shows I was planning on doing, so I was already planning on increasing. But then a friend of mine was really encouraging me to do more horror shows, which I was never having much luck finding anything other than Chiller in New Jersey, which would never even answer my emails. And everything else seemed very far, and I was like, no, like I know that I always depended on like comic shows. So she looked up a whole bunch of stuff for me. My friend Jackie Musto, who's an artist out of Massachusetts, and gave me a whole list of horror shows. And then that increased my 16 to probably like in the 20s. And then it's almost like when you're busy, people seem to think you can be more busy. So people started offering me show appearances. I started hearing about additional shows while I was on the road and registered for them, things like the Trenton Punk Rock Fest here in New Jersey too. So yeah, it snowballed. And then I wound up at 38 last year. And then this year, or last I checked, based on what's behind me, which is 23 shows behind me, and I only did one weekend where I doubled up, unlike last year where I had doubled up a couple of weekends. At 23 are behind me, but as of now, with all the ones that I'm like signed up for, it's 45
for 2020
for this year. It'll be 45. So yeah, with the exception of the one that's a double up, that's 44 weeks out of 52. Yeah, there's only like 6 weeks where I'm off. One of them is going to be Labor Day weekend. Only because I couldn't get into Dragon Con, but I would have been working that weekend too.
Yeah, that is a show, just speaking of Dragon Con, I've never been to. And I hear it takes like 2 visits, maybe 3, to actually see an entire show because of how big Dragon Con is. But it's also a show I've always thought about doing.
Well, it's one that I don't think it matters what fandom or type of work you do. There's a spot for you there as long as, you can get in because it's very competitive. Yeah. I think it's a 5-day show too.
Yeah, something like that. Because it reminds me of Icon that used to happen. I don't think they do Icon anymore, but it was at Stony Brook College in Long Island. And it was called, they would sell it as a multi-genre con. And it was a lot of science fiction, a lot of fantasy. It wasn't big on comics. People had comics they were selling, but it was a lot of science fiction and fantasy stuff. I remember sometimes they had some of the original Magic the Gathering artists there. And this is before I even knew what Magic was. I had prints from these guys. I was like, dude, I just love what you're doing here. And they explained what Magic was to me. And I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. It was the first time I think I met Ray Lago as an artist. Ray, if you guys, and he'll be at the show this week, and I saw his name on the list. But Ray, I don't know if it was, I believe he was one of the original Magic artists as well, but he might have done it after it's been out for a couple of years. I'd have to ask him. But Ray is one of the most amazing painters, illustrators I've ever seen, and his somebody work I might need to pick up some new stuff on.
Actually, well, it's a funny thing. I never give that much of a nod because I wasn't always paying attention to the artists on the cards, but in general, because I started playing Magic when it was in like 3rd edition. My uncle introduced me to it. Like those cards, I still have all my Magic cards because the artwork's like phenomenal on it. And I hate to be a naysayer this way, because I want to preface this with I'm totally cool, and I really like a lot of digital artists. Don't get me wrong, but about a year ago, I decided to pick up the Lord of the Rings pack and a couple of Vampire Magic the Gathering packs, and the digital art's not doing it for me. I gotta be honest, the old paintings, like the acrylics and the watercolors, were so much more attractive to me on a card game.
Well, I will say with the Lord of the Rings, there was a lot of kind of controversy, and a lot of people were unhappy with just the direction the cards took. And that was, I won't go into it. You can look it up. But there was some controversy in it. But yeah, a lot of the people are digital artists now. Very few are working traditionally, to my knowledge. And I've talked to you about this, and I've said it on the air. I'm colorblind. I can't paint. That's just it. I can't, because I have trouble mixing colors. I really can't paint well. But when I colored, it's one of the reasons I color digitally is because I can learn color codes and be like, oh, that's a red. Okay, I'll drop that in here.
Right. Well, don't get me wrong. I think for certain artwork, it works really well. Yeah. It's just, I think I was always so used to seeing those Magic cards as like actual paintings that like, it doesn't look the same as a digital painting. No matter how amazing the artwork is, and there are some super talented digital painters, but it doesn't have the same feel to me. I think that's why I never got into digital as a method for Well, and the fact that computers stress me out, but you know,
all the time. No, but one of the things, getting back to what I was going to say, was even though I work digitally, I have been wanting to get back into more traditional work, been wanting to paint. And I'm looking for an online class, whether it's on Skillshare or Domestika or whatever, on fantasy painting, just specifically how people work in fantasy art. I'll take acrylics right now, just because I'm not going to oils, but I'll do an acrylic or a watercolor piece right now. But my goal, going back to seeing those original artists at Icon, was to always paint fantasy paintings.
Hmm.
And I've never been able to do it. So I'm like, you know what? I got to just have someone step by step show me their process. I will follow along. And if it sucks, it sucks. If it's great, it's great. But I am hoping I could do a fantasy painting sometime within the next 6 months. You know?
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll pay for a class or something to do that.
Yeah. No, I think well, I prefer acrylics because oils dry too slow for me. So
yeah, that was my
as
thing.
much as I like painting, I like moving fast most of the time. So yeah, oils are too slow for me.
You know, it's funny you say that because I love speed when I draw. Like I'm a pretty fast illustrator, and even a quick sketch. Like I'm looking at something on my screen here, and I'm like, I did that in like a couple of minutes, you know. And where I was going with this. Oh no, what I was going to say is, it's one of the reasons I tend to get bored with work, and like even coloring. Like when I look at my Wiz strip, 90% of the time I draw him, he's off model because I draw fast. That's it. And then when I go to ink, I don't want to clean it up and put him on. I just want to draw him fast. I love the speed that I can tell the joke and go. And hold on, I got a question here. Do you guys know the art of the Hildebrand brothers or brothers Hildebrand? Number one, yes. And I actually have a pretty cool story about that. But are you familiar with their work?
Yeah. Oh man. So now I'm going to be the dissenting voice here. So no, listen. I have a book of the Hildebrand brothers' work, and Greg is the one that's still alive,
I
right?
believe so. Yeah.
He wasn't at Garden State Comic Fest this year, but he's usually at it every year. Very nice guy. So I don't want to say anything disparaging about them personally. I think and I read part of the book, and it's where I learned some things about working with color, or improves my color work, right?
Mhm.
I think their color, their understanding of color, light, and shadow is great. I'm not a big fan of their designs, though. Like when I've seen their Lord of the Rings illustrations,
Mhm.
it's some of my least favorite stuff.
Yeah.
It's not. I don't know what it is. I'm not big on their designs.
Are you talking about their character, like their illustration design, or like composition of their work? Or...
No, composition's fine. Yeah, it's like just the costume designs and stuff like that. I'm the same way about Boris Vallejo. Very talented artist. Don't really care for his designs that much, you know.
Yeah.
Just yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm sorry about that.
No, it's not. Listen. You're allowed to have that, opinion. I was talking on a podcast, well, Instagram Live. We weren't really podcasting, but Instagram Live the other night, and we were talking about Undiscovered Realm Con. It was with Mike Lopez, who I founded Incredikids Kids with, and stuff. And we had one of the other Incredikids Kids team member on, and we were talking about Undiscovered Realm.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I was excited about, besides doing the show, seeing my friends, was it's a Ninja Turtle reunion. Like, it's 40 years in Ninja Turtles. I'm one of the biggest Ninja Turtle fans. Like, as a kid, when that movie came out on VHS, I watched it at least once a day. I averaged about 3 times in one day the entire summer between 8th grade and 9th grade because I was such a huge fan of that movie. It influenced some of my Plunger Pup characters and how I drew Plunger Pup at a time. So they're going to have a big kind of like movie reunion. But we started talking about the new one, Mutant Mayhem. I turned it off. I didn't see it in the theater. I didn't watch it. I watched maybe 15 minutes of it on Paramount Plus. And I turned to my wife. I'm like, what do you think? She was like, eh. I'm like, that's how I feel. I just couldn't get into the style. And it's the same thing with the style of like Into the Spider-Verse. I think the story is great, but I don't like the look, you know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, listen, we all have our opinions and stuff, and everyone's loving this new, Mutant Mayhem and stuff. It's just not for me, you know?
Yeah.
But I've watched almost every other interpretation of the Ninja Turtles. I've read a lot of their books.
Yeah.
You know? But let me tell you quickly about my Hildebrand story. This always makes me chuckle. And by the way, I have the book. I don't remember which one it was that one of the sons put out of the Lord of the Rings stuff. And it's the story behind how they painted the Lord of the Rings pieces. But I have to go back and look at it because I've only really looked at the pictures. I don't remember. It's been a while since I looked. I don't remember if I'd have the same opinion as you on it. But I went to Garden State. I was doing it. I don't know how many years ago, and my friend Nick Makoviak, who you met at when you did JM show when Janimal was there. He was one of the guys.
Yes.
He had the ponytail. So he's an amazing painter. All right. So and he's a terrific painter, Nick. And he saw he saw Greg there, and I'm like, I'm a fan, and he's a fan, and he was nervous to go up and talk to him, and I was like, I don't know, I don't usually get starstruck, but I'm like, he is a Hildebrand, it was like, I loved his work. And Nick kind of pushes me over to be in front, and I say hi, and I ask him, and I just start talking, and we start talking about painting. And he literally, because he had a big, I think it was a Joker painting he had there, but he always has a big painting he's working on. And he literally just sat there and gave us a painting lesson. Like we got
awesome.
we got like a 15-minute painting lesson from Greg Hildebrand, and Nick was geeking out for I don't know how long throughout the entire show, and me, I'm just like, oh, I wish I could do that. Just everything you just said. I wish I could sit down and do everything you just said. But yeah, it was a nice moment for me because, it was a 15-20 minute conversation when the show was just starting. It was slow, like open it, and we literally got painting instruction from him. I'm like, that's
right.
That's cool. Well, when do you get that?
Like I said, he's a nice guy. That's why I'm saying I'm not. When I talk about somebody's work, I'm not talking about them as a person.
Oh, yeah, no, I understand. I'm just saying.
So.
I thought that was really cool.
And I'm sure he's got a lot of knowledge to impart. I mean, he's not as accomplished as he is for no reason.
Yeah. And he, and you look through his booth, and he has like the movie posters that he did, and like the actual artwork up. And I remember he had the drawing. I don't think it was the painting. I think it was the drawing to the poster he did for Clash of the Titans.
Okay.
Back in the end, and like that's, I don't know. I mean, I loved the movie growing up, but I just was always amazed by just every time I go, I just sit and stare. And there's like a price tag. I'll make up something, but it like said $10,000 for the pencil drawing or something, and you're like looking at it. It's like never.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a short list of artists that I would pay that kind of money for if I had it. And since we're talking about movie poster art. See, I'm more of a Drew Struzan fan. Like,
True. Yeah.
I would, if I had the money, I would easily pay 30,000-50,000 just to get like an original painting.
Yeah.
You know, I love his work that much. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. Drew's stuff is made. I have his one of his books somewhere in here, probably on that side. But it's
Yeah, I have his as well.
Yeah.
It's everything's all over the
yeah,
place.
I know. That's how it is here. I gotta really clean this place one day.
Well, you know what it is? When I'm not on camera, it's really easy for me to just get up and go start looking for books when I'm in the middle of working on something. But when I'm on camera, I gotta like stay right here. I can't just be like, oh,
I know. I'm the same way. And everything's far out of my reach except Lone Wolf and Cub, which I can grab right there. But yeah, I mean, and just getting back to conventions though, you said you have 45 this year. So obviously this weekend's Undiscovered Realm. When's your next show?
The week after. I got roped in. I was gonna have that weekend off too. It's not a big one. It's just a small evening show. I forget exactly where it's located. It's for the I Heart Horror guys.
Okay.
They were doing like an ice cream and cars show. They're out of New Jersey. They were going to do it this past Sunday, which I was going to try to rush down there after Garden State Comic Fest. And because the weather was ungodly hot, they decided to postpone it. And they were like, we're going to do it on Saturday, July 7th. And I was like, all I did was comment on the post, hey, July 7th, I'm free. Not saying like, because I was going to rush out of Garden State to go down and just say hi and have some ice cream, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not begrudging anybody this. But one of the two of them was like, okay, we'll write you in. That's one of the vendors. So it was like, well, there we go. I'm doing another show. I'm trying to find it right now while we're talking. That's what I'm looking at on my phone. But yeah, that's the next one. And then Contropolis is after that.
And that's when again? Contropolis.
When is it?
Yeah.
The second weekend in July.
Okay. And is that the Jersey show that they do, or is that another one?
Yeah, that's the one in the Meadowlands. Yeah, they did it last year. From what I understand, it was the most successful of all the Contropolis shows, because there was a New Jersey, there was a Pennsylvania and a Massachusetts one, which, from what I understand, it was not. They didn't go as well, but New Jersey, and they're going to bring those two back, from what I understand, in 2025.
Okay.
I think I'm getting closer to this for this event. I Heart Horror and Hot Rod's Ice Cream Monster Jamboree. Yeah, probably 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. July 7th. Where is it?
That's nice.
Matawan, New Jersey. Well, I like horror and I like ice cream. I really don't care about trucks or cars. But, I got 2 out of 3. That's not bad.
Yeah.
No, but Contropolis, New Jersey went well for me, and it's 15 minutes from my apartment. So
yeah, I visited you at that show.
Yeah. Well, it's run by the Altered Reality guys, the guys that do Rhode Island Comic Con. And actually, I got to talk to a couple of them when I was up in Rhode Island this past year, and I told them, like, yeah, I really want that show to succeed, because a show 15 minutes from me is great. And they're like, yeah, well, of course we want it to succeed too, Yeah, so
that's how I feel about Undiscovered Realm. It's maybe a 20-minute drive for me at the most. Yeah.
Right. Right, yeah. So, and then after that, I'm going to be up in Massachusetts with Tim Jones for, and actually George Medina is going to be up there for Plastic City Comic Con.
Plastic City. That's, who runs that one? Is that Keith's show?
I don't know. I've never done it before.
I think Plastic City is Keith's.
Tim was really pushing me to do it, so I said yes.
Yeah, no, if it's Keith's show, it'll be a really good show. From what I understand, it's like strictly a comic show. So it's
Right.
it's
Well,
like
then
no, but I mean like old school comic shows.
we'll see if I do well.
I'm sure
I
you
gotta be honest. Like if we get into the weeds of which shows are doing well for me, it's not comic shows. That's for sure. I don't know.
Well, listen, we've had this talk privately,
Yeah.
and you know, you have a very unique style. I know you don't like when people call it that, but
Yeah.
it's not a mainstream style,
Well,
and
that's true.
I
Yeah.
think I think when people see comics, they consider like mainstream
Yeah.
styles to purchase, but like you were saying, you do horror. You got these great fantasy pieces, these fairy tale characters, monsters, whatever. So
Right.
moving to something like horror shows, I think was a great idea because they're open to more styles. You know,
Well, yeah, and I don't know. This goes back to I feel like I've come kind of full circle with it because I think for a while I didn't like the unique label because I was thinking like maybe I just needed to go more mainstream. But I don't know. Even when I was in college and like comics weren't like the first thing I wanted to do, I really wanted to do something different with it. I don't know. I just didn't want to see the same old thing, you know. I kind of wanted to. I feel like, um, as a creator, you want to push the medium in a new direction, and I just wanted to see a different type of art and a different type of storytelling coming into it.
and I
Um,
agree. Hold on one second. I just want to go here. Christian's asking, what was the first thing you wanted to do?
oh wait, as far as first in the list or the first thing I ever wanted to do in my life? Like, what
I
do we do?
I would say Liz, because you said comics weren't your first thing.
Oh,
So
right. Well, I always used to say prose was my first love. Like, I wanted to write novels and illustrate them. Like, that was always like the number one thing. But even during my senior project, because I did too, like a psycho. But one of them, well, it was a computer animation with a tie-in to a graphic novel I was doing. But the graphic novel, I just wanted to do something very different with it, than what people were used to. I don't know. There's plenty of guys that aren't doing like mainstream stuff that are still working for bigger companies. And I guess I just would like to see more of that. And don't get me wrong, I have plenty of friends and people whose work I do like that do more mainstream stuff. I just, I don't know. This is where we might differ a little bit. I'm a little bit more of like I would like to see the whole comic industry just shaken up and see all the tired old tropes go away.
listen, I'm not opposed to that. I you know when I learned to draw, okay, I
Yeah.
will say this. My first type of ways to learn to draw was looking at comic strips and recording cartoons on the TV, playing them back, pausing, and drawing what I saw on the TV.
Right.
Which is why I think my style is very animated because I was always looking at animation more
Right.
than comics in the beginning when I was first learning. Um, but I always just took a character that I liked and be like, oh, I like Spider Man. I like the John Romita Senior Spider Man. Let me trace him. Let me learn to draw that Spider Man. So as I learned, I just pulled from characters. Um, I just pulled from characters that I enjoyed and didn't have to have a mainstream look to it. Um, and so like sometimes when I draw, I don't think I have an actual style because I just draw kind of what feels right at that moment for the story or the character.
Well,
Yeah,
I think you have a style, just like I have a style, because that's where it gets a little weird for me too. Like no matter what I try to do, I always seem to fall into what I naturally want to draw. And I guess becomes the style.
yeah.
yeah, before that, Christian asked.
Yeah, I was going to go to that next, but
Yeah.
are there
So that's
any
a good question. That's a good question, Christian. Because I would say yes and no. Okay. The only thing I can remember opening my eyes to a certain extent was I remember one of my college professors brought in a bunch of comics, graphic novels. And of course, he was from England, so he had a lot of stuff that was not typical American mainstream, you know. So that's probably when I really like. I'm sure I had seen Mobius's stuff before that, but that's when I really got introduced to it. That's when heavy metal like came up as more of like an option for me. You know, and even like Judge Dredd, which I don't know why I'm like drawing a blank.
oh, the 2000 AD stuff.
Yeah, the 2000 AD stuff. But he had one book that was a Lobo graphic novel. It was called Lobo's Fragtastic Voyage. And it was done in all these like scribbly pencil lines with watercolor washes over the top of it. And I would say that that was like the closest, but and I was also reading some manga stuff at the time, like Blade of the Immortal, which was like ink drawings and pencils. There was not even any color in it. The only thing I can say is like I don't know, like my interest started getting eclectic at one point. Like you, Michael, I was like looking at a lot of um, comics, but even then, I watched a lot of film. You know, it might have been, it might have been. So film was always like an influence on me as far as storytelling and visuals went, and I liked stuff that was grittier. Like even though I was a big Joe Mad fan, Spawn still was more of my thing um as far as like aesthetics went.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing is too, like I was also paying attention to other types of artwork. Like I brought up Drew Struzan, and even though I never wanted to be a realistic artist, right? There was still his like the raw element of like his colored pencil lines on top of the acrylics. I was also a big impressionist and post impressionist uh, lover when I was growing up. Like the Renaissance art always, and I like Renaissance sculpture because there's still like a handmade quality to it. But I don't know, like the lack of any, um, whatchamacallit, um, of any kind of like hand in the paintings, and it just looks so photorealistic. Kind of like the same way I feel about Boris's work. I don't know, it's just really talented, not very artistic to me. Like it didn't really do anything. Yeah, and I was also at the same time, with all those influences, I was really into video games. Video game art was more painted, more like Magic the Gathering cards, which were also, before anime started to have its influence on American video games. And even then I was looking at anime before a lot of people were looking at it then too. So it's just like I don't know. I wasn't just looking at comic art. And, again, not to say anything too disparaging, but at some point, a lot of comic artists started looking like they were just drawing anatomy books for like a doctor's office to me. And I was like, there's no life in any of this stuff. I don't want to see this anymore, you know? So, um, yeah, like that was a big, big thing to me. I don't know when I first had the idea that it stuck into my head, but I always wanted to see artwork that looked like art.
Yeah.
You know, I wanted it to look like it was done by an artist, by their hands. Like I wanted to see the lines and the strokes and all that stuff. I didn't want anything that looked too plastic or crafted or anything. You know.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's kind of where it changed. But yeah, I haven't seen too many instances. I just always like it when an artist does something different. I think it's why I'm such a Mignola fan. Even though his stuff's like really strange to look at sometimes. But like, oh god, I'm drawing a blank. Oh, why am I drawing a blank? 30 Days of Night was the artist on it. That was his real like kickoff. Ben Templesmith, you know. I wouldn't say he's one of my favorite artists, but I love seeing like an artist like that doing stuff in comics where it's different, you know. I'm a big fan of Steve Ellis too, who I found much later, but and also, you know, who's another one I really love too is, and I found him later too, is like Eric Powell. Like he does a lot
Oh,
of, yeah. I mean, some of his stuff is computer colored just to get the goon out quicker, but he hand pencils and inks everything, and you know he used to do like painted covers for his books, and I wish I knew about his stuff back then, you know. But yeah, I wouldn't say it's any of the mainstream stuff, which is why I really don't read Marvel and DC, you know.
I stopped doing that a long time ago myself. But, yeah, no, it's. I mean, you're naming a lot of great people. Who, you know, I won't say are my all-time favorites, but people I enjoy looking at the work of and stuff. I've always said to me, Sergio Aragonés is the all-time greatest cartoonist ever. I mean, the way I'm looking at Gru right there up on my wall. But I don't know. For me, I got tired of looking and actually drawing superheroes for a long time. Um, it's it's like I want them to be funny. Or I want them to be silly. I don't want them to look like a standard
Oh, see,
mainstream character. Yeah, I don't. Here. I'm just going to show you something real quick. I'm not
no, it's okay,
looking
but
for.
that's where we're a little different too,
Yeah,
which is funny because I do hear a lot of people saying, "Oh, I want comics to be fun or funny again." And like I said, I was reading things like Spawn and the most
yeah,
and Ghost Rider, and before I was getting into even other things. But like I don't know, I've always liked dark, like
yeah.
even before it was popular. Like I don't,
Like this is just something I was doodling earlier today, and
that's
that's a
cool though.
sword. But this doesn't look mainstream. When I ink him, he's not going to look mainstream. He's not going to be shaded in any way with hatching or whatever to give it that normal look. He just is what he is. Um,
Hmm.
and because I draw very like blocky with this stuff, um, it looks more, I think, more cartoony. I think I could do more exaggeration in a piece like this than I could, you know, drawing Buscema style, all looking at how to draw comics the Marvel way, you know. But let's just go to some comments real quick.
Yeah,
Um, I've
because
been wanting to
Christian's got
catch
a
up.
bunch.
Yeah, Christian writes too much sometimes. So Mad Cave is getting some really off the beat. Yeah, no, they are. I've been noticing. Are they the ones doing like the King Feature stuff, like Flash Gordon, the Defenders of the Earth, the Phantom? I think Mad Cave is doing them. I'm loving what I'm seeing there. Christian also asks, and we'll get any particular film directors. You were talking about how film was influencing you.
Right. I don't know when film, well, I can definitely say that Tim Burton was the first one that ever like really got on my radar as far as like, having like a style and aesthetic to his movies that I liked. And don't forget, I started Tim Burton with Pee Wee's Big Adventure and then jumped into Batman '89 and Beetlejuice. And all, so, I was like early Tim Burton.
Yeah.
Um, and some of his later stuff, but it did lose a little bit of its charm, I think. I think he had to make too many compromises with certain things. But once I got old enough to pay attention to filmmakers more, I don't know, like, uh, I mean, I hate to say it, but before I totally dropped him, I mean, some of Mel Gibson's films were, good. I also loved early George Miller stuff. I mean, because I was a big Mad Max fan. You know, and that's very like gritty and dystopian. But yeah, you mentioned David Fincher. Seven is one of my like all-time favorite films. I think it's phenomenal. Of course, I always talk about Nosferatu, which is very moody, and you know that's the original like silent film. Like I loved it. I mean, my brother and I grew up on like Universal films as well, and then I don't know, like I don't remember the first Ridley Scott film I saw. It was not Blade Runner, but I always felt like he had a really great style and sense to his films as well. Seven is a moving graphic novel. Oh, that's absolutely true. That's a good way to put it. For a second, I was like, "What the hell is he getting at?" um, oh yeah, and well, it's not as much. I think Seven and The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, are probably the two films that I think have the all-encompassing factor for me, where it's like visuals, storytelling, like everything's kind of coming together. I feel like Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula is like that too. It's just like, you know, I don't care what anybody says about Keanu Reeves in that film. That film is great. It's friggin' awesome. You know, I can overlook things. Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. Um, yeah, and then of course, you know, I was mentioning Nosferatu, but more recently, Robert Eggers, who's remaking it this year, or the remake is coming out for Nosferatu. He's been a big influence too. I just think he's a great filmmaker. You know, my parents always thought for some reason I was going to go into special effects or go into film. I guess because I was to some degree. I watched a lot of movies. I'm not a TV guy. I can't keep up with shows. I say it often. I have commitment issues with television shows, but you know, you give me a short series, I'll get through it. You start going into 3 seasons, I'm gone off onto something else. You took too long to. But anyway, yeah, as I'm trying to write like my multi graphic novel series with Chadhiyana, you know. But yeah, I don't know. I hope that answered the film question. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think so. It's
Oh, and well, I mean, this is more recent too, but I think the filmmaker, and this is gonna sound kind of strange, but I would say Robert Eggers with like the weirdness factor, but I'd say the filmmaker that probably, you know, in more recent memory that has had, I would say is doing closest to what I'm trying to achieve is probably Christopher Nolan, where like it's a really interesting mix between big heady ideas that don't make sense to most people, but also like fun and action packed and enjoyable as a blockbuster at the same time. Like, yeah, I'd say that's the closest. Maybe have to get back to you. I don't know.
no, listen, you named a lot of great directors. I'm going to tell you, I won't say who, but there's a couple on there you named that I'm not really a fan of, but I don't want to go into those conversations right now. But hey, listen, like I always say, if you like it, that's the important thing. You know,
Right.
it's you know, each their own. Everyone has different influences, different tastes, and you know, you know, I'm not a fan of certain things. You're not a fan of certain things, and you know, but yeah, I mean, the one thing I like though, you know, I won't talk about filmmakers right now or anything, but like it's getting into comics, you know, and Christian and James are out there watching, hopefully still, and you know, everybody who's watching, you know, are the majority of my audience is artists. I'm gonna put that right out there right now, and I think that's one of the reasons people like my show. It's goes to artists. I talk to artists. I talk to writers, and you know, I get to learn so many things about you know, topics I may not know about as well, or you know, like I didn't follow film like uh, Hold on, I gotta get to this here. Not what you said. I write too much. Well, I've read your scripts before, so
You're a legend,
yeah.
Christian.
You know what? I will say this about Christian. A few years, I don't even know how many years back, um, we did a 24-hour comic contest
Oh God.
between two comic shops. One was the Spider's Web back when Paul was the owner, and there was a shop in the city that's no longer there, Carmine Street Comics.
Oh,
And
okay.
and we set up two teams, one in each store. And Christian, he wanted to be the writer, and he sent in a submission. And the submission was told after giving, he's like, they did not believe he wrote that in the time frame he was given to write it, because they said he is going to be the next. Why did I just blank on his name? Christian, do you remember who they said? Big time writer, hates the comics industry, talks about all the, what's his name?
Alan Moore.
Alan Moore. He was going to be the next Alan Moore.
Right.
I don't know why I blanked on his name. And he doesn't. I don't think he hates the comic industry. I think he actually.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does.
I don't
He
know.
absolutely does.
Sometimes. Well, I think he hates the business end. But I always saw.
Well, that is the industry.
Well, no, but what I mean, like like before I got to the point where I just say, you know what, I'm not the target audience anymore. I used to get mad about certain comics and movies coming out. I just don't care anymore. I think what Alan Moore's problem is that he loves comics too much. Just like I would get angry. He is angry because he sees it going in a direction, or he saw stuff happen to him or his properties that did not go in the direction he envisioned. And I really think that's more of his anger than him actually hating, the industry per se.
He does hate the industry, and because it's the way no, he likes he likes the medium of comics. He absolutely adores the medium of comics. And I will say this, before I had read any Alan Moore, I would say that his thought process in comics was probably more known to me. And I probably, to a certain extent, agree with him. And I think it's why I came at this more of like wanting to see changes in the industry and such. Nothing against the medium itself. I love the idea of bringing art, and like I got to do my two favorite things. I got to write and draw and bring it all together. I think that's fantastic. But and I haven't had a lot of bad experiences, but between me and stories I've been told and have heard, I think Alan Moore absolutely despises the comic industry. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but anytime he talks about it, he talks about the industry, not the medium being like the problem, and why he. And I don't think it was a direction thing. I think it was just, because Alan Moore isn't like the political type in the sense of like I don't think he'd care what was in the comics. I think it's more of like just the way the industry works. It's not favorable to creator rights. It's not favorable to creators' bank accounts. It's just I think that's more of what his issues have been. And I recently he was doing something promoting, and I saw somebody had spoken to him, and he had said, he would never go back. He's much happier not being in it, and he doesn't ever want to go back to it. Yeah. In fact, I think he even said, and I don't want to misquote, but the only thing he's not proud of is all of the superhero stuff he did in his entire career.
No, I can see
that. And let me also say this, because I'm really touting Alan Moore's views on the industry here. At the same time, I am not a huge Alan Moore fan as far as like the actual stories go. he's been kind of 50-50 with me. Some of the stuff I've read of his, and this is also separating the artist from the art, from the work going into the art at the same time. Because let me say this, I don't think there's any writer in comics that had put the type of attention into the work that he did. And I definitely find him like amazing for that too. But it's like, let me put it this way: I didn't like the ending of Watchmen. I felt like in the graphic novel, and I won't spoil anything, I just felt it was way too far-fetched, and I didn't care for the graphic novel V for Vendetta. But From Hell was awesome.
I was just putting up a comment from Christian.
Yeah, it is absolutely a literary masterpiece. And if you get a complete version, like a omnibus version, like you can see all the work he put into that. And that is just like astounding for any comic writer or creator to put that much work and research into anything. And don't get me wrong, I think the Watchmen was really, really well put together too. I didn't like how he ended it. But in The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, from what of it I've read, I really enjoyed too. I wasn't as he wasn't on my radar when he was doing Swamp Things and stuff like that. So
my thing with Alan Moore is, number one, I've been a fan of his writing for years. I'm not going to go into all the different books, but I will say I have not liked any movie adaptation of any of his comics. I think nobody can really bring his ideas to life on film properly.
Now that's where I'm also going to disagree a little bit.
Oh, okay.
I felt like Watchmen was pretty good, but you didn't have some of the extra stuff, like the newspaper clippings and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, and I'm also like a big Zack Snyder fan, so I don't care what anybody says. He's awesome. He's another director that I think is fantastic and underappreciated in some areas. But I actually, of course, The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen and From Hell. Well, The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen is not as good as the comic. From Hell, I don't even look at them as being related in any way. I liked the From Hell movie. I absolutely loved the From Hell graphic novel. It is almost impossible to say that those two things are from the same creator, though, right? And I liked both. The one place where I feel that I do disagree is V for Vendetta. I really just didn't care for that graphic novel, but the movie I loved.
I read the comic. I didn't see the movie, I'll be honest with you. But I had mixed feelings about the comic. And I thought it was a fine comic. It wasn't my favorite of his stories. So like when it was turned into a movie, I wasn't eager to go out and see it. And then after all this time, I'm like, I just haven't seen it yet.
I would watch it. I think what the Wachowski sisters did with it was streamline it. I think they made it a lot more digestible.
Mm.
I just feel like it got too weird, and not in a good way. It was hard to follow a lot of it, the graphic novel, and I feel like they trimmed out all the fat and made it a very enjoyable streamlined film.
Maybe I'll give it a shot.
Yeah.
And one day, I'm sure it's on HBO or Max, whatever the hell it's called now.
I think I have it on DVD. I don't know.
But yeah, what time is it? I just want to make sure we talk about some other stuff before we end the show. And one of them is Darkfire Press is your company.
Oh, right.
And I want to, and I'm going to show at the site you wanted me to show. I'm going to bring that up. But let's talk about Darkfire. Tell us a little bit about it. And
Right. Well, I have to start. Yeah. Well, this is our stuff over on the Any One World site, which is a branch of ASAP Imagination. Um, they're based in the UK. You know, hey, Mike. They are carrying all of our current titles from our novels to children's books to all our comic stuff, and we're going to be adding more comics in very soon. Louis Cruz and Bob Sodaro have been waiting on me to get Jennifer the She-Wolf and Wolf Girls up, respectively. I think we announced it last year because it was the 5-year anniversary, which really didn't turn out to be that exciting of a 5-year anniversary. Because, like, I think every book we announced got delayed between Chadhiyana Wonder Duck and Jennifer the She-Wolf and Wolf Girls. I have not been doing a great job as a publisher recently, but we do have a lot of books, and I am getting new titles ready for the second half of the year. As far as I know, George Medina, he's got the second Wonder Duck finally just about ready to go. Lewis not only has Jennifer the She-Wolf 1 in, but number 2 is coming soon. I am, believe it or not, just about done on some, and I know I've been saying just about done, but it's taking a lot of man hours to do this. On something that will not only get Chadhiyana number 3 out, but get the series just move with greater speed going forward. That's just about done. I foresee like within the next week or two.
Yeah.
And Bob Sodaro, the Wolf Girls comic is a tie-in to his novella, which is going to be publishing later this year too. So, yeah. But yeah, I started it up as just kind of like a thing for myself to put out some books that I wasn't going to go to a publisher with.
Yeah.
Or put out so that I could take it to a publisher or just experiment with. And then in order of, I think it was Louis, George, and then Anibal, they all approached me individually to have their books published, and I said yes. Because if I was going to publish things, I didn't want it to just be me. But, you know, I'm finding I really do have to take my job as a publisher a little bit more seriously, and that is slowly something I'm working more into my schedule. And then, of course, when my publisher contract with Rosarium was gone for Chadhiyana, I brought her into the Darkfire Press fold. So I am, on another side, I am simplifying the Darkfire Press logo. I'm changing it slightly. So that will be forthcoming. Yeah. Yeah. I love the logo, but don't get me wrong. It's just, it's got a lot going on for a logo. So I'm trying to simplify some things with it. Yeah, I'll be unveiling the new logo plus all the new books, which will have the new logo on it pretty soon. And, you know, yeah, you know, we've been going since 2018 though.
Yeah.
That's when I established the LLC, at least. I think I had been using the label Darkfire Press on some Gentleman Cthulhu stuff for about a year before that. But yeah, it's been going pretty good. I mean, for something that's only been around, what, 5 going on the 6th year, we have quite a bit of stuff there.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And just knowing George, I have read the first Wonder Dog, and it's a fantastic book. I gotta say.
Oh, I agree. So that was another funny thing about it is I was saying yes to everyone without reading their stuff at first. And I remember with George in particular, you know, because it was like a bigger book that I was taking on. When I read it, I was like, oh, thank God, it was so good. I really enjoyed it, but I was also thinking, I just said yes to publishing this without reading it. What the hell did I do? But it turned out to be great.
Yeah.
And George, you know, I don't have any actual, because I always want everybody to succeed, so I never feel embarrassed to say this. Wonder Duck's the best-selling title through Darkfire Press. You know,
Great for
um, I mean, I do pretty good. Probably combined, I would say Robert Phillips, Chadhiyana, and the Tainted Ones, because Kirkland Horror is fairly new. Those have altogether outsold Wonder Duck, but yeah, Wonder Duck's the bestseller consistently year to year. So looking forward to that second volume coming in.
Yeah, I look forward to reading that myself. You know, and I actually, because I read Wonder Duck, I asked George to write something for me.
Right.
So we'll talk about it, me and him, hopefully before the end of this year.
Yeah, it's funny about that, by the way, talking about like writing more. That's another weird thing. Like I said, prose was like my first love. And I think it's a reason. So back when I was, oh God, I'm going on like 3 different tangents at once. Back when I was a kid and I decided I didn't want to draw other people's stuff and I wanted to do my original. I mean, this was like 4th or 5th grade. I had my own little like comic company, so to speak.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I had Quasar Comics. It was like this great thing, and so I think becoming a publisher maybe wasn't something I planned on doing, but maybe it made sense in the end. But going into the writing thing too, because the two, like one thought shot in 2 directions. It's funny, like I've been doing more editing and getting a lot more credit for my writing, and it's all been since I put out my first book, Robert Phillips. I think I've said this before. It's like a lot of people just thought of me as an artist until I had a book out. Didn't matter how many comics I wrote or short stories I got published or poetry, whatever. Once I had a book out, now all of a sudden, like, you know, people are like, oh yeah, can you write this? Can you edit this? Can you, you know. It's amazing what something on with a square bound spine and just words and no pictures will do for you, you know?
Yeah. But it's great. I mean, and listen, you're really good at what you do. You know, you're a great writer.
I'm glad that people think that.
I don't remember which prose I have of yours right now.
Probably Robert Phillips.
Maybe. I'll be honest, I haven't finished it. But I tend to do that with prose because I don't know. Some days I have trouble with reading.
But it's a big reason. You know, I'm behind on a lot of things, but one of the other things I want to do is get my novels adapted into, and I actually want to look at how it works with comics too. But I want more audio available because listen, I love, you know, holding a book in my hand and reading it black and white in front of me. I don't even want to read on a screen. But there are a lot of people that really like audio. I won't be able to concentrate on audio. I'll more than I do when I'm reading, I will just space out and have to keep rewinding it. But there are a lot of people that listen to audiobooks, and I don't want to miss that market. It's not even missing the market because I don't want to think about it in a business sense, but there's all those readers that I could reach that could know my work. And, you know, I want them to be able to enjoy it too.
And there's a bunch of people out there who are, you know, handicapped, can't read anymore. You know, need large print, or even large print's too bad for having an audio book for them to listen to.
Well, and anybody that's visually impaired. I worked with somebody when I was teaching that is blind. He was more in an aid or, you know, kind of position. But yeah, he was always asking me, like, when you get a book out, because it was pre-getting a book out, you know, are you going to get, like, audio versions? Because, you know, that's the only way he could digest any kind of, you know, entertainment. It was just through audio.
Yeah. But, you know, and then that's a great idea, though, to have it in audio. I think, you know, you don't see that a lot. But I have been seeing on YouTube lately people doing, like, acting out comics. So, like, they'll have a group of people, like, say 4 or 5 people, and they'll play different characters doing different voices for the comics now, and
Sure.
sometimes I'll watch those things because I don't have time. Well, number one, I don't have a comic shop locally to me anymore,
Right.
but I don't have time to always read a book. So sometimes while I'm drawing, I will listen to a comic, and it'll be like a story I remember, Christian, if you're still in the audience, I'll tell I told you this. I I was reading that Ninja Turtles book, the Last Ronin,
Hmm.
and when the book was coming out, the spider's web closed for the first time. So I stopped getting the book, so I
Right.
never finished the story. So I looked up the Last Ronin on YouTube, and there were people acting it out. So I just watched like the last. I watched the entire story, and now I know the ending. I'd like to get a copy of the trade for myself so I can read it myself. I still want to,
That's
just for the experience. But
that's funny. I have I haven't read it yet, but I have the IDW put out like a hardcover version.
yeah,
Got it. I think for Christmas this year or last year. I get stuff faster than I can read it, people. Like it's just,
yeah,
you know.
it's a
But yeah, I do want to get into it because I haven't read a Turtles comic in years, And when I heard the concept behind this, I was like, oh, this is too good to miss.
it's a good story. I enjoyed it. I do
Yeah.
wish I read it before I watched the audio version of it. Like I had the chance
Mhm.
to read the whole series just because I would have liked some of the moments to how you go back. I always go back to like the death of Superman, you know,
Right.
in the '90s, and you're reading that, and you've been reading a battle going on for so long, and if you pay attention to how the books were done, I'm sure you know this by now, but every book it went for say like 6 panels per page down to like 4 panels down to 3 2 until basically the last book was just splash page after splash page, and you get to that moment where you turn, because it says today's the day, and then you turn and it says a Superman died, and you see Lois holding him, and it's that emotion, that effect I wish I had that reading
Yeah.
The Last Ronin, but I didn't get to have it just because I really wanted to know how the story ended. Um,
Right.
but yeah, but it is a good story. I'm not sure if it needs an R-rated movie, but hey, I'll still go see it when it comes to the theater.
Yeah.
but,
Yeah.
um,
Sure.
but yeah, no, there's a lot of great stuff out there, and again, just this weekend, Ninja Turtle reunion. Has Been Hotel, people. If you've watched that show on Amazon, I believe it's a short cartoon. I have no clue about. I haven't watched it yet, but supposedly it's very popular, and that it's like a lot of the cast, if not the entire cast, is going to be at the show. Um,
And what's that one?
it's called Has Been Hotel.
Has Been Hotel.
Yeah,
The only reason I'm writing it down is, I didn't really think to mention this to my sister-in-law and my brother, but um,
it's HAZBIN Hotel.
oh yeah, well I'll just mention it
Yeah,
but my nieces are big Turtles fans. I don't know if they saw that film though. That's a good question.
the Mutant Mayhem or the original?
The original.
Yeah, the original. They're actually going to have two of the people from Mutant Mayhem there, two of the turtles.
Well, they've
Um,
probably seen that.
yeah,
Yeah.
so they'll be there, but it's going to be both April O'Neils. I know that. They're
Mhm.
going to have some of the puppeteers that are going to be there that worked on stuff. Um, I'm not good with names all the time, but his first name is Kevin. Uh, he was Elmo in for the Muppets, but he was Splinter in the Ninja Turtles movie.
Okay. Yeah.
So like he'll be
Hmm.
there. Um, God, so many. There's supposedly over 30 30 celebrity guests that are going to be there. One of them is
well, then I might do okay.
yeah. One of them is our friend Marty Grabstein. He'll be over there.
Oh yeah. Well, I forgot. Not to say too much. I meant Marty would also be good to get together with.
Oh yeah, Marty will be there.
No, I mean, well, you mentioned something, and I said, oh, as long as you're there, it's good. But Marty's.
Oh yeah. But for those who don't know, Marty's the voice of Courage the Cowardly Dog, and he's someone you have to just.
I've never. He's not somebody I name drop enough because I don't like name dropping in the first place. But it's like this precious little thing because it's fun. Like I was too old to watch Courage, but it's like I live a couple towns over from, and also occasionally have dinner with and chats with him.
It's. But like
he's a fun guy to be. I personally like. He's a character.
Yeah, Marty is he's one of those people that like when you meet him, he's the most memorable person.
Yeah, no, he's definitely memorable.
Yeah, but like
in a good way.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't think you were too old to watch. I watched this show when it was on.
But we're I guess we're different in that way because you've always consumed like cartoon content, whereas there's a huge gap in the time period in which I did. I'm fine with it now, but there was probably a long period of time where. As I said, I was more like looking at anime and stuff like that. So something like Courage just wasn't like.
I get you. I was actually when that show came out, it was '99, I believe. So I was actually animating at that time.
So for context, and not to make you feel old, I would have been either a sophomore or a junior in high school,
and I was in college taking whatever class at that time.
Right.
I went to, after I got my associate's degree, I went to a school called Empire State College, and it was an independent study school. So I just took my time to get my degree, to get my bachelor's, which I didn't get till like 2001 or 2 or something like that. But I started in '98, but I was working. So I just took classes whenever I could.
Right.
Yeah, but I was doing Flash animation for the internet at that time. But yeah, no, and I was watching some anime. I always preferred to read manga than watch anime.
Yeah, I think weirdly enough, I was more into watching anime than reading manga, but I'm also, even with that, like I'm so choosy. I was in college. I probably consumed the most anime out of any point in my life because the woman I was dating, young woman at the time, was really into anime, but our taste could not have been any different. The minute somebody was like falling on the floor with a nosebleed or screaming and carrying, I was like, what is this? Please shut it off. I only wanted the stuff that was like as dark and depressing as possible, so, or at least very action based. I would say like the lightest, that's a weird way to put it, but like the lightest stuff I enjoyed was probably Outlaw Star and Cowboy Bebop. Everything else was like heavy.
Yeah. I remember those. I didn't watch a lot. I don't know. It was weird. Like, I don't know if I ever told you this. When I was in like elementary school, middle school, the cartoons I grew up on, Voltron and Transformers. Those are technically animes. Well, Voltron definitely, but they're animated overseas. They have that anime style. and
Oh, yeah.
and there were some other animes on. I grew up. What was it? Battle of the Planets, Tranzor Z, which most people know as Mazinger Z, or Magzinger, sorry. And so I watched all those things growing up, and they were a big influence on my drawing styles.
Well,
Uh,
you
what?
want a really deep cut? We
Yeah.
had one VHS copy of two short film episodes, whatever, of Gigantor.
Oh, I
Black
enjoyed that too.
yeah.
Those
But
were great.
no, I mean, I enjoyed it when I was a kid too,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah. And like growing up, kids made fun of me for how I drew because I was drawing very Japanese style at the
Oh,
time.
okay.
And then when I started saying like, you know what, I want to be a cartoonist, I want to do this, and I want to be an animator. I'm like, I don't live in Japan. I need to learn the American stuff. So I mean, and don't get me wrong, I grew up. I loved Bugs Bunny. I loved all that stuff. Hanna-Barbera, you guys know, is one of my favorites. But when I started drawing more American, like in late middle school or early high school, that's when we started getting the anime boom coming in here, and people
Mhm.
started making fun of me for drawing American style.
Right.
I'm like, I just can't win. I can't win.
Right. Well, here's a funny thing. The first graphic novel I pitched out of college, I think part of the reason it was rejected was because it was way too manga styled. Also, my skill set was not as good. Let's face it.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
like, it wasn't a selling point, right?
yeah.
And now, like everybody, I mean, it's taken all this time, but almost 20 years later, now it's like every comic company is like, should we be doing manga instead of American
Yeah,
comics?
well,
And
I
it's
mean,
like,
yeah, I
what
mean
the
that could be a big debate, but I will
right?
say this: I, you know, I sat down with myself a long time ago, and I'm going to say within the last 2 years. I had some, as a lot of people know on here, I've had a lot of health issues, and I'm like, I need to start really focusing on making my comics, or they're just never going to get done.
Mhm.
And I sat down and I said, you know what? I've loved manga and anime for years, which is funny because if Christian and James are still watching, they know when I taught at a college, I outlawed manga in my class because I wanted my students to be more versatile as an artist and be able to draw anything.
Right.
And all they came in was with copies of Naruto or whatever, and I'm like, no, draw me something else. I want to see this type of stuff, you know. And I recently said I want to draw manga. I'm gonna make some. I'm gonna call it Michael manga. It may have some American influence on it, may have some Japanese influence in manga, whatever it is. I'm drawing a manga, a couple of manga stories, and yeah, I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying drawing things that I love. You know.
Right. Well, see, that kind of goes back to what I was saying in the beginning about kind of what I want to see in comics. Doesn't even have to be whether I'm into the stuff or not. It's like what you're talking about is combining like two different disparate things that you enjoy and making it into a different style that's kind of your own and telling the stories you want to tell.
Yeah.
Like I want to see more of that happening, you know.
Yeah. Well,
So
I hope I can do a lot of it.
right, yeah.
And also like I wanted to pull off my strengths. So
And I want plunger pup.
Plunger Pup is being worked on slowly.
It's just I just love that character.
I don't have it here. I thought I did. Is it on my back? Just give me 1 second. I actually did kind of like an anime Plunger Pup the other day. I don't even know where he is right now.
I keep bringing it up every now and then because like I am just so looking forward to that.
That is my 2025 project. That is my big overall 2025 project. So what I'm doing besides the Wiz right now is I want to make,
which you've been doing good with, by the way. It's
thank
been
you,
coming out regularly, good comics, you know.
Thank you, I appreciate that. because I question everything I do.
I mean, everybody always does. I've learned to just like keep going regardless of what I'm saying and put it out there and let everybody else decide.
Yeah, and listen, I'm getting a lot of nice feedback, so I'm very happy about that. Um, but I do have some direction I want to go with it. I'd like to, put myself, with a buffer. I haven't been able to do that. I literally draw the strip the night before, and I put anywhere from 3 to 5 or 6 hours in, depending how detailed, how much coloring I have to do. But just getting back to what I was saying before, my goal is to just put out like 2 20-page manga stories, short stories, and put it together in one book. And that's my goal by the end of 2024, is to have a 40, maybe 50-page tops, depending on if I need more for the story, book. And because I'm colorblind, I could do toning in grays just like you would see in a normal manga. And I'm like, these are my strengths. Why aren't I playing on my strengths with my comics and my storytelling? So that's what made me decide, yes, I'm going to do a manga. And so if I can put out, like I said, a 30 to 50-page manga story, two stories in there for then, and then 2025 is all about the Wiz and drawing Plunger Pup. I've been rewriting stuff, new ideas, looking at a lot of things. I can't bring the camera down, but under the desk, I literally have a bin plus, notepads and sketches just hitting almost the top of this table here behind me from the floor to fill. It's all Plunger Pup. Everything I've been writing since 1992 when I created it.
Right.
And it's old comics I drew, scripts friends wrote for me, that I paid for, by the way, guys, just so you know, I paid for it. So I'm going to be combining things. I have this one story that because Plunger Pup broke off into a team called the Ridiculous Heroes, and a friend of mine at the time, he wrote a Plunger Pup and the Ridiculous Heroes story for me, and I went back and I read it like 2 weeks ago when I was in the bin, and I'm like, why haven't I drawn this? This is hysterical. It's great.
Yeah.
And I I need to do this. I need to put this book out. So
sure.
It might be like a bonus thing. Like I'm thinking 2025 is going to be a Plunger Pup web comic for a while, just to build an audience again for it, and then collect it and add a lot of bonuses to the books, like this story my friend wrote and a few other things I have in there. So I'm just excited for it. And I have all these designs, different costumes, I have so much stuff, and I'm like, how can I use it all? That's really where I'm at right now with that. But yeah, I'm so excited to do Plunger Pup. You have no idea. This is big.
No, I'm sure.
I haven't drawn a Plunger Pup book since 2001.
Oh wow!
So from 97 to 2001 is when I drew Plunger Pup. I created him in 92.
Yeah.
And I've been wanting to bring him back for years, and haven't had a chance. And now, I got all these stories. So I'm excited. I'm excited for 2025.
Yeah, well, I'm excited too. I forgot. I just saw that like one picture and then the name Plunger Pup, and I was like, oh my God, this is the best character.
I used to get, people liked it. I used to sell out of nostalgia, because it has that Hanna-Barbera, Warner Brothers feel to it. And artists loved it. It was the public I couldn't sell to. Like when I would do conventions, everybody who really bought the book were other artists.
Right.
It wasn't like just normal people off the street, but they just like, oh, I like this. Oh, it reminds me of Goofy. It reminds me of Underdog. It reminds me of this or that. And I'm like, oh, that's great, but it's not either of those. So if you buy it, you can find out more about it. You know, that's kind of
Right.
like what it was. But it's and for those still watching, Plunger Pup started. This is the quick story because I don't want to keep you much longer. We're almost at 2 hours here. But Plunger Pup started because I was sick. Like I was home with like the flu, and I was watching recordings of Darkwing Duck that I recorded off the show, and the character Megavolt in there, I didn't realize was a rat. He was to me, he was a dog. At least how sick I was, and I saw him. And I said, he had the plug on top. I'm like, if you take out the plug and put a stick in there, it looks like a dog with a plunger. So he could have been a rat with a plunger if I knew what the heck I was looking at the time,
Sure.
So, but that's how Plunger Pup was created. So he was basically a Megavolt-looking dog with a plunger in his head. And then I changed the costume. And when I wrote him, I took my two favorite characters at the time and combined them. And it was Green Lantern and Luke Skywalker. So basically, that character that you see of Plunger Pup is basically Green Lantern, which really influences the costume. He's got the symbol in the center. He doesn't have a mask, but he's got the helmet. He's got the plunger hat on. But it's a generic superhero costume.
Yeah.
His powers are very much like Luke having the Force. And the plunger is, I won't call it a lightsaber, but it's his weapon, and it does a few things, and it's almost like a Green Lantern ring in a way.
Right.
And that's just where it came. Then all the characters I started creating were parodies of other characters. Like my Batman and Robin became Mop Man and Water Bucket Boy, and my Superman was Mighty Monkey, and my Hulk was Stupid Man, and he was great. I loved him. He was this really genius like scientist, but when trouble happened and they knew he needed to help, he put a dunce cap on and he became stupid. And so, but he had all this great strength and power. But these days I don't know if I can have a Stupid Man anymore.
You might just change the name. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, his real name was Stuart Pitt, so it was stupid. It was like that was his name, and hold on, I'll show you. So you can see his face right there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so that was Mighty Monkey, Mop Man and Water Bucket Boy. That was Hero Man, obviously Plunger Pup. That's Count Barula, the Toaster, who was like a mobster. I called him the Cyber Boss, so he had like a cybernetic suit. And that's the Evil Toilet Bowl Monster, who was Plunger Pup's main villain. So this is when it started, the Ridiculous Heroes. There's Count Barula against Mighty Monkey, and so yeah, Mop Man and Water Bucket Boy versus the Cyber Boss. This was the first book of the team meeting. They got Stupid Man and Hero Man there. So maybe they'll appear again, but I eventually turned them all into an animal world, so I don't know if the human-looking characters will make an appearance. I got to figure that out.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's some of the stuff I've been thinking about with Plunger Pup, and doing a lot of character redesigns and having a lot of fun with it.
Well, yeah, it sounds like 2025 is going to be the year then.
Yeah, well, definitely for the creation. It might not come out till 2026, but I'm hoping. My goal is by fall 2025 to start posting the webcomic, and by the end of 2026. If I do it correctly, I'll have the book collected.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. That's what I'm hoping. Run the first story arc, because Plunger Pup was always set up as two major stories, and I won't tell you what they are. Because,
right.
I don't give that away yet. People need to buy the book. So, but yeah, it was always set up for two major stories. I'll tell you, the first ending of the story is highly influenced by Queen's "We Are the Champions." Every time I hear that song, all I want to do is write Plunger Pup. That's it.
So we just need to play that on repeat for you until we get this book.
You will have no. Well, there's certain things that happen that, like, he has his ups and downs, his failures, and with the songs, I've had my share of sand kicked in my face, but I've pulled through. So crap happens to Plunger Pup, but he gets through it. So
Right.
It's like little parts of that song start coming out, and I'm like, oh my god, if I could just be able to write the last story. I know I can't. With just all the lyrics of
Right.
that song, you will see. I would like flashbacks. I in my head, that song is my last book for Plunger.
That's cool.
So, but yeah, man. Listen, we've got almost 2 hours. I have to get up early tomorrow, so I do have to cut this short. Probably shouldn't have had that second cup of coffee in the afternoon.
I wouldn't say we're cutting it short at 2 hours.
Well, I could always sit with you. There's a bunch of people. I do the show all the time, and my shows always run longer than, like, I say, yeah, it's an hour. Maybe we'll go an hour and a half, and then I have someone like we're doing 2 hours. I bring on someone else. I have done almost 3 hours. I've had almost a 4-hour show. I think it was 5-hour with Andrew Frank Rodriguez.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you know him, but
yes, yeah.
We did a show once, and I think it was almost 4 hours long.
I haven't seen Andrew in years, though.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, maybe he'll come up to the show.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, I was gonna say that's the good thing, right? Is even though you feel like we're cutting it short, we got the weekend together, so
Absolutely. And our tables, I don't think, are too far away. I am A9, and I think you're in the same row, I think, as me.
I haven't checked.
Yeah.
I'm terrible with that sometimes.
Well, they sent the email out that had.
Oh, they did?
That had, yeah. I'll tell you right now. Where is my? We'll do it on the air so everyone knows where to find you. Oh.
No, that's from Wayward Raven.
Okay, so this is. It was in the same.
A6.
What?
I'm A6.
Oh, so you're not. I'm A9, so we're 3 tables away from each other. Yeah. So yeah, it was in the email that has that I am attending.
Oh, hey, okay.
Picture.
Yeah, I can see this now.
Yeah. So yeah, and if you view the map, you can see where everyone is. I know Fugitive Poems. I don't know their exact table number. I could find. Oh, A42. They're going to be right in front of the kid zone, like the entrance to the kid zone.
They're going to be in front of the kid zone?
Yeah, so I'm like, of all people.
That seems like a weird, like, not that I'm happy that we're near each other, but I almost feel like you and them should switch.
Yeah, well.
Well,
it's all Artist Alley. It's here. I'll just for those. I'll put the map up on the screen for a second before we go. So this is the map. All right. So you enter the main floor over here where it says main lobby, and to find us, you go to the left, and if you just roll over, you can find out who's where. So Capes for I'm going to assume that's cosplay. I don't know who that is. That's Ray Lago at A3. Mark Wayne Harris, I'm not familiar with. So, you go Frank Martin, comic writer. There you are. J.M. DeSantis, A6. The art of Joe, is it Critelli? He's got nice artwork. I don't know Erin. And then there's me. Allison is also she's a fantasy artist that's going to be with Incredikids Kids, and C.L. Schneider is a great fantasy writer. I don't know who are there because they don't have tables for them here. I know A17 is Will Torres. Rich Maruzio, who's part of the kids section, will be at A18, and then Larry Hama at A20. So, this is a lot more, I guess, of who the celebrity artists are. And then you go just around and there's more artists and stuff. And all these, the big black boxes are the vendors.
I think
So,
I'm curious to see what it's like on the ground, but I think that's a cool setup.
yeah, no, it's listen, when I worked for the college, I worked for a while. We had what's the word? We would have our graduations here. So I've been to this building multiple times in my life. It's going, and I've done a couple of shows here. It's been a nice, it's big. There's a lot of room here. I
Hmm.
think it's going to be a great show. Like we said, the third floor is panel theater and gaming rooms. The downstairs is the celebrity section. I don't think if I click on, they'll tell us who's sitting where. So Steve Whitmire, for those who don't know him, he was Kermit the Frog after Jim Henson passed away. He did tons of stuff. I don't know who this is here. I don't know if they're Ninja Turtles or not. Oh no, this is probably the Ninja Turtles section, right? Because Ernie Reyes Jr. will be there, who was one of the Ninja Turtles in the first movie, and then he was the pizza guy in the second movie. And if you remember, early '80s, he was in Sidekicks with Gil Gerard, who was Buck Rogers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so this is more Ninja Turtle stuff, I think, in the center here. So this might be Has Been Hotel, because Larry Kenny's right here, who was Lino from Thundercats, and Lynn Lipton was Chitara, and Peter Newman was Tigra, and he was, they all did Silverhawks stuff. So he was the team leader. I don't remember his name right now. Silverhawks, but yeah, yeah. So this is the lineup here. Ken Scott was Raphael. Was he Raphael? I think, or Michelangelo. I don't remember in the first movie, but he was the fellow Chucker as well. I don't know if you remember that scene where Michelangelo says, "A fellow Chucker, eh?" He was in the Foot Clan costume, so he did the nunchuck stuff there. Yeah, no, a lot of cool stuff here. This is going to be a really, really nice show, I think.
Yeah, like I said, I'm looking forward to it. It seems like pre-COVID, it was a well-liked show. I had just not been aware of it,
Yeah, I did the show once, I believe, before COVID, and there was I've done 3 shows there. So I did my first one was in 2001, and then everything else was later on. But yeah. So anyway, let's wrap this up for tonight. First of all, pleasure chatting with you as always. Looking forward to seeing you this weekend. And besides Undiscovered Realm Con, do you want to promote anything else before? Like just give a shout out or something to anything else before?
Yeah, I mean, well, other than I'm still new. It's not even a year old. I would pick up my novel, The Kirkland Horror, if you're a book reader and a horror fan. Also, subscribe to A Kid in the Comic, because we got The Wiz, we got more Chadhiyana and more of the Beast, and you'll get, even if you're starting now, you can. Well, first of all, I still have copies of 1 through 7, but if you're just starting in season 2, you'll get a recap of both. You won't get left behind. But yeah, at akidinthecomic.com. Yeah, go to Darkfire Press. Check out some of our works. Me and all the other guys I'm publishing. And that's all I got. Just I'm doing so many shows. It feels like that's the only thing. Come see me on the road.
Yes.
You'll always
follow your social media, just so where they can.
So best one for me right now still is Instagram. You can go to @JMD write-ist. No hyphen in it, but you can see how write-ist is written down there. I should probably change that so that makes it easier for people. Facebook, you can just look up JM DeSantis. My website is down there, jmdesantis.com, which links to everything. You can join my mailing list too, because then you get updates like once a month. Or click on my Patreon. Maybe help out a little bit. Help that cat that you saw earlier keep getting her treats and her food, or the lights on, so I can keep making good comics and books and stuff.
And you make great stuff. Listen, I own your work, and it's not just because we're friends. I literally have three. Like I said, I have 3 pictures of yours hanging up in my home. 2 in here, 1 in my living room.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. That's much appreciated.
But it's because I truly am a fan of what you do. I think I have 2 of your Chadhiyana books. I have that book which I never read. I want to. I haven't had a chance, but it's like your collection of your life or whatever, like everything you.
Oh yeah, the first 10 years.
Yeah,
I gotta redo that book. I still have copies of it. I'm trying to sell out. I love the book. Don't get me wrong. I just don't. I want to relay it out.
Yeah, absolutely. I get you. But yeah, no,
it was the first book I designed. Why I decided to do like a mega book like that, but it was a learning experience too. So yeah.
No, the stuff you put out is fantastic. I forget where I met you. It had to be at a show somewhere. But the reason I met you was because of the stuff I saw on your table. I know that for a fact. I came up to your table to talk to you and look at your work.
You're not the only friend that I have that happened with, but also I'm just more trying to remember how the hell we started talking.
Yeah, I really don't know. I can't.
Actually, you mentioned Andrew. I think that's how we met. He came up to my table at New York. My friend Jackie that I mentioned earlier, we were in Boston when it was still Boston Comic-Con, and she came up to me to get a commission, no less, of her character, because she felt like, I was a real artist, and it was like, Jackie, no way, you were doing much more at the time than I was,
Yeah.
I've met a few people that way.
Yeah, and
I'm so curious now.
Yeah. Well, I'll never remember. I'll tell you that. I don't know how we first started.
I probably won't either. In fact, truth be told, the only reason I know how Andrew and I met is because he reminded me, almost a little bit upset that I forgot.
Well, Andrew does remember a lot.
Yeah.
I listen. I'm sure we either had friends in common where someone's like, you got to go check out his work, or I bought stuff from you when I first met you, or we talked, and then we just followed each other on social media and started chatting, probably.
I'm going to say it was probably Ray. Ray seemed to be a great uniter.
Yes, Ray Felix.
It's either like Ray and Mark Maz were like the 2 people that I met a lot of people through when I first started out.
That makes sense. It could have been Mark. Mark is really like Ray. He likes to bring people together, but Mark is just such a good guy. I've been trying to get him on the show, but he doesn't have the schedule for it.
I haven't seen Mark since Ramon Gill did Diversity Con back in 2016, I think.
Oh, wow.
I don't think I've seen Mark since then.
I saw him not this year. I believe it was last year's Eternal Con was when I saw him. And a bunch of us went out to dinner. But yeah, no, Mark's a great guy. He just has such a great heart and just loves comics and loves to, like you said, bring people together. And he's someone like, oh, you're at my table, sit down, let's just chat.
Oh yeah. Well, Mark's responsible for publishing a lot of my early work too. He's been my editor.
Oh really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Well, that's why he wrote the foreword to J.M. DeSantis the first 10 years.
Well, like I said, I haven't read it. I just have it on my shelf.
No, it's okay.
No. I'm just saying I didn't know he wrote that because I haven't really flipped through it. But yeah, no, it's on my list. Like you get a bunch of books ahead of time that you're not ready.
No, I know, and I even picked books up from friends too that I do intend to read, and it's not anybody's. But just like, that moment in the conversation, I feel like I've been pretty on task in this interview. But, my mind just shoots off in different directions. Sometimes it's like, oh, these are the next 5 books I'm going to read. And then I finish a book and it's like, oh wait, that one.
Yeah, it happens. It happens. I actually, and I know I said we were going to get going, but I just recently started to reread the original Tarzan book, like the first book.
I have a copy and I
And
haven't dived into it yet.
and I got a thick. It's like the complete work of Edgar Rice Burroughs, you know. So it's not, or is it all the Tarzan stories? I don't remember. Whatever it is, I'm reading the first book, and I got to be honest, it was a little difficult to get back into it because the writing style, you know, for the era that it came out in, you know, we don't talk like that, and you know, whatever. So
that's the stuff I love.
Yeah.
I eat that stuff up.
It was a little hard, but I read like the first couple of chapters and I put it down, and I haven't touched it in like 3 weeks. But I was on my lunch hour one day cleaning up the studio, and I turn around and there's a book on my back table. I forgot what it was because I read, like, I stopped cleaning and I read for about 40 minutes, and then I put it back on the shelf. I'm like, and I haven't touched it since. But I haven't finished this. So I jump around in stories way too much.
Yeah, that I don't do. Unlike television shows, I'm committed to a book until I finish the last, like, word in the book, all the way to the back spine.
Yeah, I can't. I want.
What?
Yeah. No, I said I want to be able to do that. I just can't. I'm more of the TV guy. You know?
Right. Yeah. So I just so I won't read two things at once. Sometimes I'll just read a quick comic every once in a while if it's like one issue, but generally, yeah, like even book to graphic novel. So what I do try to do is once I finish a novel, which takes me longer, I'll try to like do 3 or 4 graphic novels just to like catch up on those and then get back into another novel.
Yeah.
But time's uneven, and then when I got sick last week, everything slowed. I didn't do anything.
Yeah, when you're sick, everything's. If I didn't have my medical issues, I think I'd have about 40 books done by now. You know, it's just one of those things.
For me, it's just more of my neurotic anxiety and all that kind of shit. If I could get rid of that, sorry to curse on your show.
No,
if I could get rid of all of that, then I'd probably be moving at a great clip. And people say to me sometimes that I work fast, and it's like, yeah, just imagine if I didn't have all the hang-ups that I do.
Yeah, I mean, but I think as artists we all have that. I mean, you know, for different reasons, obviously, but you know, I think someone like me, and I'm not going to name any other friends that we may know who do this, but specifically if you're a humor writer, I think you're really messed up in the head. I mean, humor.
If you're a what writer?
If you're writing humor all the time.
Oh,
you know what I mean? I think you really have a lot of issues. And listen, I know my stuff, so you guys out there, you don't want to get inside here, but it's, you know, but we take that and we turn it around into jokes because it's our way of coping with all the hard stuff that we're dealing with. And you know, and I you know, but you hear about it with any great comedian or, you know, I mean, anybody who's an artist. Everybody has their form of depression, anxiety, whatever it is, and it's our way of expressing ourselves to get away from all the crap in our head. You know, when I draw even just a doodle, it's like meditating for me. You know, it's, you know, I keep a pad and paper with me wherever I go in my own home. Like I just literally carry my drawing pad and pencils from the bedroom to the bathroom. No, not to the bathroom, but the bedroom to the living room or something like that. In my studio, it's always with me, so that if stuff happens and I need to escape for a moment, I know I have that there for me, and it's become a security blanket. I literally take it with me going out places, even if I know I'm never going to draw like a family party or whatever. I know I'm not going to pull out and draw over there. It's in a bag, whether it's in my car or next to me or something. It's such a security blanket.
Yeah, no, I know. I always have too much with me, but I always have a backpack and it's got 3 things. It's always got a book I'm reading, a sketchbook, and some writing book that I can either jot down notes or has something I'm working on in it, you know. All times, no matter what.
Anyway, let's not bring down the show.
No. That's not bringing it down.
No,
Honestly, every once in a while, somebody will be like, if you come and pick me up, you might have to wait a little bit. It's like, oh, it's okay. I always got stuff to do. Don't worry.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. I always have stuff, but that's the type of people being creative, doing that type of stuff. You know, our minds just work that way. You know, I'll never, ever publish all the stories I've ever created because I create stories faster than I could work on anything.
Yeah.
And I literally could, I mean, the Plunger Pup universe, I believe, last time I counted, had something like 115 like heroes and villains.
Oh wow.
You know, so I created a large universe.
You need a team, Michael. Yeah. That's what you need.
But I only use like 6 or 7 of those characters. But I'm like, oh well, you know, if they go here, well now we need instead of, you know, my Iron Man, he's Steel Stork. So it's like, oh well, what if they go over to this area and they need to see Steel Stork, or I just need a random hero in the background. And I just designed a character, and it's, you know, Gadget Gopher or whatever I call him. And now Gadget Gopher's in the background of the story. And I'm like, I'll never use him, but I have a history I've written about him. I have designs. I have everything about this. And I'm like, Gadget Gopher is now a character. You know, I could turn him into something. And, you know, so it's, I have way too much. And that's just the Plunger Pup.
You'll have to put out a source book for it. You know?
One day, and it'll be like, characters you will never see, but that have been created. Oh man. Anyway, let's definitely wrap up this time. So again, thank you for coming on. Everybody, go to jamdesantis.com and you can access all his links there. Is that where your social media is too?
Yeah, like on the sidebar top, all my socials are listed there. Yeah.
And you can find them there. And also, please go subscribe to A Kid in the Comic, because in season 2, you will see both of us in that paper, along with friends of ours and really other talented writers and artists. And it really is a cool thing. And I am super excited for that, because The Wiz has never been officially in print outside of the Whimsical Wiz, the complete 2023 collection, which you can get this weekend at Undiscovered Realm Con, where you'll see both me, J.M. DeSantis, Fugitive Poems, Incredikids, Kids, and so much more. All right? So with that, guys, thank you for tuning in. I will see you all next week with another guest. And we're going to be talking Zorro next week, because he's one of the people who worked on the new Zorro book, which I got to work on. And that is out at boldventurepress.com. It's called Romance and Swordplay. And I'm waiting on my copies, and I'll be able to show you them as soon as I get them. But with that, thanks a lot. I will see you all next week. Have a great rest of your night, and hope to see you this weekend at the show. All right? Bye, guys.
Bye.